Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today I'm going to be playing Attila Total War, which is the newest version of the Total War series, put out by Creative Assembly, just released a few days ago. The game focuses on the life of Attila the Hun and lasts from 395 AD, the final division of the eastern and western halves of the Roman Empire, until 450 AD, or that's at least when the victory conditions are met, just a few years before Attila the Hun's death. I'm not sure how far after Attila's death the game goes. The victory conditions end at 450, but perhaps it goes a little bit later. Who knows? Anyway, I'm going to be playing a campaign here, and here we are on the new campaign screen. You can see there's several different factions, if you will, to choose from, as well as different types of cultures. You've got the barbarian kingdoms, which are kind of the more established barbarian lands, which kind of have clear defined borders. You've got the Franks and the Saxons here, and you can see on this map over here to the right where their territories are, just east of the Rhine. You've got the Great Migrators, which are made up of the tribes who had been located in kind of modern-day Germany or Eastern Europe and are being driven west into Roman lands by some of the nomadic tribes like the Huns and Alahans. You've got, in this group, you've got the Ostrogoths, the Alahans, the Vandals, and the Visigoths. In the nomadic tribes section, all you have at the start here are the Huns. And in the Roman Empire, of course, as we've mentioned before, you've got the East and the Western Empire. The Eastern Empire was by far the more wealthy of the two. Greece was a very wealthy trading area. Constantinople was the wealthiest city in the world at the gateway to Europe, or to Asia, or Europe, I guess. It's on the very furthest reaches of Europe, right where Europe becomes Asia. Anatolia, also very wealthy. Trade from the Black Sea would flow through Constantinople. Trade from the Middle East would flow through Constantinople on its way to Europe. So Constantinople is a huge trading hub, which makes the Eastern Empire in of itself incredibly powerful. It also has another benefit in that Constantinople was a fortress city, unlike the world had seen in perhaps ever. The geography of the city at the end of a narrow peninsula meant that any land approach came across a very narrow area, which was entirely walled off and easily defended. The Eastern Empire would last for 1,058 years from the final division in 395 AD all the way to 1452. I can't do math. That's, what is that, 1,058? No, 57. No, 58. It fell in 1453. To the Ottoman Turks in 1453, but time and time again, barbarian tribes would defeat the Eastern Romans only to be thwarted by Constantinople's huge walls and massive garrison. It was these walls that really were the key driver in allowing Constantinople to become one of the largest, actually the largest city in Europe, one of the wealthiest cities in the world, and were a key reason that the Eastern Empire did prosper and last for so long. It's easy to set up shop and business if you know that city is going to be safe from enemy incursion. Yes, so that's the eastern half. Meanwhile, the western half of the empire was predominantly agrarian. Spain, Hispania, and Britain were all very farming-heavy communities. The northern part of Africa was the breadbasket of the Roman Empire at the time, and the kind of Pannonian provinces and northern Italy was also very agrarian. So really the heavy city area, high population density, and more mercantile areas were really limited to a few cities in Italy, so it was a much less prosperous area, and therefore the reason I'm playing as the Eastern Empire is I wanted to play as Rome, but the Western Empire would probably be too difficult for me, especially playing on hard difficulty. You know, it's right in the middle of that difficulty scale. You've got very hard and legendary, you've got easy and normal, and I'm going to be in the hard area, but I don't want to play too easy at the same time. I don't want to play the hardest country to play as, so. Then you've got the Eastern Empire, which at this time only consists of the Sassanids, which are basically the modern-day equivalents, or not modern-day, they were the Persians. They were the successor state to the Persians. So they've got Iran and they've got parts of Iraq. And then you've got the Norsemen, which make up the Gers? I'm not sure what, I guess they're in Denmark. And then you've got the Danes and you've got the Geats as well. So, as I said, we're going to play as the Eastern Roman Empire here. It's got a nice little write-up. We're playing as our faction leader of Flavius Arcadius Augustus. And without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in.
The air was filled with smoke and blood. The Roman Empire was divided. From the shores of the Danube to the sands of Egypt and Arabia, the Eastern Empire sprawled. The West ripped itself to pieces, abandoning Rome, while the righteous looked east. The sun rose on Constantinople, God's new city, where the spirit of Rome prospered. Her people grew rich and powerful, paying neighboring kings to do their will. And behold, a red horse, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth. Romans of the Eastern Empire, those architects of a new age and forgers of a new empire to light the world. They made ready for war. The late Emperor Theodosius decreed that Rome be divided, entrusting you with the bountiful East. Now the empire is in danger. The Hunnic hordes are approaching from the northeast, driving even the hardiest of barbarian tribes to flee before them. The Visigoths and their ilk migrate across your lands. They cannot be allowed to harm your people. Be mindful, too, of your southeastern territories. The Sassanid Empire is strong and will challenge you for dominion of the East. The West is guarded by the Western Romans, but they, too, are overstretched and under threat of barbarian invasion. It may be prudent to unite Rome under your banner and restore the Empire to her former glory.
Alright, so a few things I liked from that intro. First of all, it talks of a new empire and a new city, and that's really true. Constantinople at this time is less than 100 years old. It's 395 AD, and Constantinople was founded by the Emperor Constantine. At the time it was founded, it was a small backwater town called Byzantium, or was it Byzantine or Byzantium or something to that effect, which is where the empire gets its name of Byzantium later. But by now the city had been founded for less than 100 years at this point in time. It does become a major fortress city, and by this time it already was. It was founded actually kind of as a fortress city. And the empire had been divided at that point, but Constantine united it. Now, the game starts in 395, which is actually just after the final division of the empire. Theodosius was the last Roman emperor to rule a united empire, even though it was only for a short time, and he split the empire on his death between his sons of, his son Arcadius, and then, what's his other son's name? Honorius, who was only 11 at the time. Arcadius is 18, and that's who we play as the Eastern Roman Empire. And as I mentioned earlier, the empire would last 1,058 years in the East on its own. Although, another thing that the video touched on, or the little intro touched on, is the fact that really it is a new empire. It is Roman in name only. As time goes on, the empire becomes more and more Greek and less Roman. So it really kind of transforms itself into a new sort of empire, really. But that's enough of that, not to bore you too much with the history. So we'll go ahead and take a look here. It appears we have a chapter 1 and we have a objective to basically just stay alive for 5 years. Now every year is broken into 4 turns. You've got the spring, summer, fall, and winter turns. We start in the spring of every year. It is 395 spring. So while the game's campaign ends in 450, or at least that's when you hit your victory conditions. That's 55 years, but you can multiply that times 4. So even though it seems like it's a more shrunk down game, kind of in the vein of Napoleon, which was a 20-year campaign coming from Empire Total War, which was over 100 years. It's over 200 turns because it's 4 turns per year, so pretty healthy game length, I would say. You can see here we get an objective right off the bat, as I said, just to stay alive. We'll take a look at what our other objectives are. That's our primary objective. Obviously you've got to meet that to continue on. We've got some bonus objectives as well. One of them is to raise 5 mercenary units. Looks like we got a $1,000 bonus for that. One is to maintain at least 75% Latin Christian in the region of Thracia. So, whoops, we're not getting there yet. We'll go ahead and take a look at the province of Thracia. And we've got Constantinople, Markopolis, and Tremontium, or something to that effect, in this region. If we take a look at the detail for the region, we can see the wealth is coming largely from Constantinople, which makes sense. It's the capital of the empire. It nets us about 900 profit per turn, although it is a big food sink, which again makes sense. If we look at the religion breakdown, which we can also get on this screen here, this province, I don't know what you want to call it, province summary screen. You can see we're about 70% Greek Christian, 15% Greco-Roman paganism, which had been abolished by Constantine about 90 years prior, and whatever the heck Mechanitism is. I don't see anything about Latin Christian. I'm going to assume Greek Christian is the religion we want to pursue, or not Latin Christian. I'm not sure what the difference is. But if I look here, we don't have that option. Where's the church? I mean, we've got a Greek patriarchal church, and then we've got a basilica, but we don't have anything about Latin Christian, so I'm going to assume that's just a typo in the game. You can see here every province has a different, has its own screen, which gives you just kind of information, the buildings you can build, ranging from churches to farms and governors' estates, making the city larger. Typical Total War stuff. We've got some armies here. We'll take a quick look at our armies tab. You can see up here the forces tab will give you a quick breakdown. We've got 7 different legions. I do the math right, yeah, 7. And you've got a mini-map down here that'll show their standards and where they're located. 1 on the border here along the Danube River, 1 in Constantinople, and then 2 in Anatolia here near the border between some rival states over here, which are against some of our... what do you call the cities? What are they again? Protectorate cities, where we don't directly own them, but they're our friends. And then we've got 2 also here in the Palestine region, understandably to counter the Persians, who basically Rome's been at war with since the time of the first Rome Total War, and then 1 in Egypt as well to protect the wealth there. We've got some islands in here, but not much mentioning. Biggest initial threat I see coming are these 2 stacks here. Seem harmless enough, right? Wrong. They are the Visigoths, led by Alaric I. You've got 2 seemingly large armies of 14 out of a max stack of 20. Assuming they're at full strength, that means some serious manpower, well over, well, I guess it depends on the army size, but suffice to say thousands of them. And they're right in the heart of our empire. Why is that? Well, because in this age, the Romans no longer desired to fight wars themselves, but another thing the video touched on, they were heavily reliant on mercenaries. So the Romans would welcome barbarian tribes into their land, let them settle on their land in exchange for military services. And Alaric was actually one of those soldiers who'd been fighting actually with Theodosius, the previous Roman emperor. And when Theodosius passed away and Alaric was not given a promotion to a rank of general, he became very disgruntled. He joined other Visigoths who were very upset and felt like they were basically used by the Romans as cannon fodder and decided to revolt against Rome. But more on that probably in the next video. This is just kind of a brief summary of where we're at here as we zoom out. Greece here you can see is pretty vulnerable to Alaric, but we'll get to that later. We've looked at our objectives. We're going to look at the trade and finance screen. Just kind of a quick rundown of the overall finances of the empire, army upkeep, navy upkeep, maintenance, other expenditures, in total. So you've got that, and then you've got the total income, and then you've got the net. So we're a little bit profitable here. Nice little update here shows us where the lowest public order section is, and Caesarus Estube. I'm sure I'm going to butcher all the pronunciations here today. That's something I'm not great at. We've got technology, which actually I don't think I went through all the objectives yet. So we'll go here. We can see the next objective is codification of laws. So we want to research codification of laws. This takes us to the technology screen. You can see we start out with professional soldiery, and we can continue researching down this path if we want. But we've also got several civic honors here. I would imagine some of the barbarian tribes have more militaristic features, whereas the Romans have more civic features, which makes sense given their quote-unquote civility, where the barbarians were not civilized and the Romans were, if we're going to go by that. So if we want to get to this objective here of codification of laws, we've got to reach Greek philosophical revival, and we'll go ahead and do that. Good to go. If we look at our objectives, what else do we have? We've got 3 more. We've got maintain at least 35% of the following religion across all provinces. Greek Christian. Okay, well, we're already researching that, so we don't need to worry about that. Ensure that the Visigoths are not in our territory, so that means we've got to defeat these guys here by the year 400. A little bit of foreshadowing. In 396, the Visigothic Alaric invaded Greece, devastating its cities, killing their occupants, and plundering the region's wealth. Okay, well, that's not good. And then we need to make sure that the Ostrogoths don't have any presence in the Eastern Roman Empire either. And it says, under the leadership of Trilgalad, the Ostrogoths, who were settled on the lands in Furia, revolted against the Roman masters. So again, another tribe of Goths who were invited into Roman lands to serve in the Roman armies and revolted. Sounds like a common trend? Well, that's because it was. At this time in history, the Romans were not too keen on fighting their wars themselves, and it was not uncommon for young Roman males to cut off their thumbs in a way to avoid military service. That meant that the Romans were always pretty darn shy of manpower, and by the 300s were increasingly reliant on mercenaries. The thought of the elite professional Roman legions, well, that was a thing of the past. They were largely armed with mercenaries, which meant that the combat advantage that you're used to seeing in the early Total War games, if this is done right, will be heavily penalized, and you won't have the same sort of professionalism that the enemy does not have. You can see here we go into the faction screen, so we've got patricians in our family. Most of them appear to be generals, and then we've got some candidates who want to join our family. So we have one statesman. I don't think I can make him a... Can I make him a military count? Why would I do that? So there's different offices you can basically put people in, being a count in the military, a master of soldiers, master of foot, master of horse, commander-in-chief, and master of offices. You've also got some governor roles you can put them in. You can assign up to 4 governors here right now, and you can see we've got Euproptius or whatever. What's his name? And we'll put him... No, I didn't really want to put him there. I just wanted to see what the regions were. So anyway, so I made that mistake. You can see here each different character, by the way, it costs money when you assign people as governors. You can see here each character has an age, the influence that they wield, how good they are with their zeal, cunning, and authority, which are all different traits. Authority is more of a kind of how they lead troops in battle. Cunning allows them to understand strategy, tactics, and security against agent actions. And zeal, kind of their personal security and their personal combat skills. So we can go ahead and assign these guys kind of all over the empire. And each time you do assign someone, it does cost some money. So just keep that in mind. 4 governors assigned here. 3 in Anatolia, really, and 1 in Egypt. Kind of keeping them away from Alaric, because I don't really feel like getting them killed with the city getting sacked, where I have no hope to perhaps thrive. So, anyway, that's where we are there. We'll go ahead and take a quick look at some of these regions where we've assigned some people. When you do assign a governor, it opens up the ability to issue edicts within a region. Edicts allow you to affect different traits in the region. So, for example, Christian progress makes you research rates faster. Divine liturgy makes people convert to Greek Christianity and improves their morale. You can increase urbanization, which drops construction costs and increases your tax rate. Or rural development, which increases your food production and your growth. So food up here is an important thing. You need to make sure you have a surplus, otherwise you end up importing and paying way more for food and possibly causing your growth to slow and people to starve. But before we decide what we want to do for our edict, we should probably take a look and see what this province is all about. Well, we can see that Zoroastrianism, which is I don't really know much about it, but it's a religion in this age, is on the decline. Greek Christianity, however, is also on the decline. Machanism is on the rise, and Greco-Roman paganism is also on the rise. So not maintaining those levels that we want for that objective of ours, we're going to go ahead and establish Greek Christianity here. And now, hopefully, we'll see there's a difference in, maybe you don't see it right away, but hopefully there will be a difference in the attitudes of people toward Christianity, causing us to get more Christians there. We could also do something about it. It doesn't look like we can build a church there right now. So we'll go back out here to Sicustius, or whatever, this province of Asia. We'll see what their religion is. You can see Greek Christianity is on the decline. The only one there on the rise is Machanism. So we're also going to do Greek Christianity as our primary reason to influence that region. And one of these other regions, here we go. So if we look at this region, we'll see that Greek Christianity is also on the decline. So in an effort to combat that, we will go ahead and research divine liturgy. The other province, I believe, that we have a governor in is Egypt. So we'll slide on down to Egypt and go ahead and do the same thing. I'm assuming similar story, and I'm right. Greek Christianity, not on the decline, but not large enough. So we'll go ahead and do that. Meanwhile, we'll move one of these armies here in the Holy Lands out north so we can keep our border with full-size army units, hopefully able to support each other. My goal is to put them in Mysia, so we've got one along, I guess this is probably Jerusalem, and then we've got one at Mysia, and then we'll skip a town in Edessa, but we'll have one in Amidia and Miletyne to have a pretty strong, solid line against any aggression into Roman territories. The Greek provinces are where my real fear is. But I've talked enough. I think that's going to just about do it. Oh, we can touch on the diplomacy screen. Look at diplomacy. It exists. It's a total war game. So diplomacy basically exists, in my opinion, to declare wars and that kind of stuff. Western Roman Empire doesn't really like us because, you know, apparently relations are improving. There was a rivalry between Flavius Arcadius and the Western Roman Emperor Flavius Honorus. Now, they generously make him 16 in this game, so he's capable of ruling himself, but he was actually 11 and had a regent ruling for several years. Flavius did not take to the field, was not a combat general. He relied heavily on his mentor Scipio, who was a loyal servant of Theodosius, the father of both of these two. These two developed an intense hatred for each other, tried to kill Scipio several times. Interestingly enough, Scipio was still very loyal for many years to the Western Empire, and was really a great leader in general, and the West hanging it together during Honorius's rule had a large part to do with him. Also, their father Theodosius, the last Roman general to suit up and fight his own battles in the field with his armies. The army dramatically respected him, and as a result respected his children as well, giving them perhaps more loyalty than they actually deserved. But again, I've been talking enough without doing much of anything other than just a brief overview. That is the world in 395 AD. I believe the last version of the game, Barbarian Invasion, which the reason I'm doing this series is Barbarian Invasion, which was expansion from the original Rome Total War, was one of my favorite Total War games of all time. Actually, I think it is my favorite Total War game. The reason I'm doing this series is because that was my favorite, so I wanted to see how this stacks up. The game does start, I think, about 30 years later. I think the original started in 360 AD, and this one starts in 395 AD. So this starts after Constantine. Well, that would have been after Constantine as well, but this was during the initial, or one of the early separations. 360, I want to say it was like Valentines was the Western Roman Empire. Let's take a look. Yeah, the last one started right after the rule of Jovian, and was in 364 with Valentinian, the Emperor of the West, and Valens, the Emperor of the East. So this one jumps ahead about 30 years. There's less than 100 years until the fall of Rome, and that's where we're at, the time of Attila, who was born... Oh, when was he born? 400 AD? A few years after the game starts, and then he died in 453, 454, somewhere in there. The campaign, as I said, goes to 450. So that's where we are. This is the world of Rome right now in 395 AD. We've got the Sassanids who hate us. Several other provinces along here hate us. A couple of tributary. It would be real nice if you could... What? It'd be real nice if you could make this go away. Can you? No, maybe not. I don't know. Oh, you can expand it. Lovely. What about shrink it? I guess a little bit. Anyway, so that's the world in 395, and the Visigoths are in our land. They're in a horde mode. You can settle, so barbarians can take a province and settle. But anyway, I've already said it. Enough talk here. Next video, we will get into actually playing. I hope you enjoyed this brief overview of the game. You can see provinces. One other thing I neglected, you can see all the provinces in the world. You can see all the factions in the world. Look at all those red faces. They all hate us. Our armies are here, as I said, and event messages show up here. But anyway, that's where we're at. I appreciate you tuning in, and until next time, this is the Historical Gamer saying thank you for watching, and I'm out.